It guarantees our sovereignty. These investors you are talking about, you will find them in many other countries. South Africa is one of the few countries in the world whose reserve bank is privately owned. So these investors that are going to be worried about us safeguarding our sovereignty have themselves invested in other countries where the reserve banks are owned by the state. So it will be inconsistency and an unacceptable thing to say, no, South Africa must not do it, and whereas you allow other people to do it and you still invest in those countries.
How would it work then if you were to actually nationalize the Reserve Bank?
It will be, the governor will be appointed by the state, and the members of the Reserve Bank board are going to be appointed by the state, and it will ensure that its sovereignty, it is based on the interest of the South African people.
What are those interests, though? And let's just talk about the private shareholders who, at this point, as you mentioned, are currently, holding shares in the Reserve Bank. I mean, what would happen with these entities then?
No, the private shareholders must be gradually bought out of the Reserve Bank, and we cannot allow a situation where we say no. At all costs, these private investors must stay because what about their investments? We are not an anarchist organization. We are a progressive organization that is going to gradually ensure that strategic sectors of the economy are state-owned. And it doesn't mean private sector can't play a role. It will play a role in other sectors of the economy, not on strategic sectors.
What if that then puts in jeopardy the rand and the strength of the economy here in foreign direct investment? I mean, would you then maybe take a step back from this position?
No, we can't do that. Of course, there's going to be a bit of a setback. There's going to be an attack on our policy, but the world is now evolving and changing into a different kind of world. There is a huge debate now to de-dollarize the economy of the African continent, and there are other markets outside the dollar that will be prepared to invest and boost our economy, and will use our mineral resources as well to boost our currency.
So what kind of setback then are you anticipating if you are to nationalize something like the Reserve Bank?
No, a setback is going to be that we're disinvesting in a way of trying to intimidate us. It will not be for the first time where the capitalists want to impose themselves on people through disinvestment. The only thing is, do you have alternative markets? When they disinvest on this or that sector, will these alternative markets come in? And then China is more than willing to come in. Russia is more than willing to come in, and we're able to close that gap. And we must equally start trading in a very big way with the African continent, because sometimes we don't invest from amongst ourselves. We over-rely on America and the West, whereas if we're to do business amongst ourselves, we'll be better off. So it shouldn't be that when that threat comes, we should be shaken. We should know it's going to come, and we should anticipate that when they come, these are alternative markets that are lined up to come and intervene.
But couldn't it potentially put relationships like that of the EU, which is a major trading partner for South Africa, in jeopardy if the country aligns even closer to Russia or to China?
Well, it's our self-determination. We cannot be told by EU who our friends should be and who our trading partners should be. If anything, the colonizers and the imperialist forces are not our ally, and we make no secret about that.
So, I mean, they're the biggest trading partner for
because the other markets are closed out. The biggest trading partners who can help us build power stations, if anything, they say destroy your power stations. And because we are their trade partners, we are unable to go beyond them and ask other people who can come help us to make our country a better place.
So what would then be, you've talked about everyone is a friend if they are working in the national interests of South Africa, correct?
Yeah.
What are those national interests? What would be priorities?
We need to safeguard the sovereignty of the South African state and make sure that its interests are first more than any other country. So, for instance, if you are to engage in a trade partnership, you always have to ensure that that trade agreement is beneficial and it is in the best interest of South Africa, not because the EU or Britain or America feels you need to go this direction or else we will withdraw certain benefits that are there for South Africa. So that's what we're talking about, not people who are going to be saving the interest of our colonizer, the interest of the imperialists.
Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is set to make a visit to South Africa. I mean, considering what you're saying about Russia, does your foreign policy stance potentially put that relationship in jeopardy? Would you meet with him? And I wonder what you would say then.
No, I can't meet with him.
Why?
I've got no business meeting with him because he's engaged in a struggle to get people killed out of nothing. He is saving the agenda of the NATO forces and wanting the NATO to engage in a illegal territorial expansion and undermine the sovereignty of the Russian people. And the Russian people are saying we've got a right to defend ourselves. So I will not meet with a person who serves the interest of other people other than the interest of his own people in his own country.
Julius, in the Ed Board, you were saying that there's been a lot of fear-mongering that's going on. I mean, considering what you're saying and considering the jitters among investors, is it justified? I mean, considering, you could potentially destabilize a lot of the relationships that South Africa has had intact.
It's a foreign policy of the EFF government, and it should not be scaremongering because whoever now comes to relate with us will now know where we stand on this or that issue. It doesn't make Zelensky an enemy of the EFF. All we're saying is he has to make a clear pronunciation. He's not joining NATO because the joining of NATO allows NATO to undermine the sovereignty of the Russian people. And we know who NATO is. NATO, America, you can't separate them. So that's all we say. The same thing with Palestine and Israel. We're not anti-Jewish people. We are anti-apartheid Israel, which is committing genocide in Palestine. But if they stop what they are doing in Palestine and genuine talks take place where the two-state theory can be canvassed and be implemented, we are more than willing to participate in that kind of discourse to try and find a solution in the Middle East. So our support for Palestine does not necessarily suggest we are anti-Semitism.
And Julius, before I let you go, because I realize I've gone over, I wanted to ask you about your former boss, Jacob Zuma, former president of South Africa. His MK party is doing better than I think a lot of people expected. Are you anticipating the MK party to take some of the success away from the EFF, as some polls are suggesting they're doing with the ANC?
Well, at the center of the formation of the EFF, it was our battle with Jacob Zuma. So there is no person who would have said, no, I'm joining EFF, yet I support Jacob Zuma at that time. So our base has never been based on the basis of the love and support for Jacob Zuma. So why would something that was not based on his love and support be threatened by him? We are a national organization. We have had successful rallies in all provinces, and we are the only organization after the ANC that has got membership and presence in almost all municipalities in South Africa and exists in every corner of South Africa.